Okay, let's get started, and hopefully our friends can watch the recording if they are not able to join. Allow me to share my screen. Perfect. Okay, can you guys see that? Okay, I see Andy smiling.
Yeah, I see it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. Okay, welcome to our week 7 sync. Only 3 more weeks. Can you believe it? Today should be a pretty quick sync. And have a little welcome and icebreaker, and then some updates, and we'll do a quick retrospective, and then some time for Q&A. So for the icebreaker, I would love to know, firstly, what the best Halloween costume you've ever worn is. And secondly, on a more serious note, what's one way that you feel like you could improve as a TF? Andy, do you want to answer first?
Sure. The best Halloween I ever worn is the Superman costume. It was like back in when I was 7 years old.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what about one way you could improve as a TF?
Um, I don't know. I tried to explain better on the context that the students been teach.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard when you understand something and you learned it in a different context and you associate it with
Yeah.
those examples from your class or whatever. So I totally get that. Hi, Sakani. Ruhi, do you want to answer the icebreakers?
Yes. So the best Halloween costume I've ever worn would be probably I was Queen of Hearts last year. That was fun. And then a way I could improve as a TF is probably a little bit trying to get more quieter students involved more. It's a little bit difficult sometimes, so like I guess improving on that would definitely help.
I totally get that. It's hard. It's hard to be the one that like makes the collaboration happen when it's in a room where maybe they don't necessarily want it to happen. That's definitely like awkward, but I feel like it's a good skill. So that's a great contribution. Sakani, if you can hear us, would you like to answer the icebreakers?
She sent us a message saying that she will unable to have it.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries, Sakani. Sorry, I missed the chat. Let's keep going. Okay, yeah, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. Just a few updates. Oops, I didn't update the slide. These are actually the same updates as last week. That's why that's the same. But I wanted to run through them just one more time so that we're super clear. So first and foremost, last week, the capstone projects began. You probably saw that your groups were maybe merged or unmerged, made smaller. Maybe people were completely switched. And the groups that you're taking care of might have changed by number. So I saw that you all caught that in the course tracker. I appreciate it. That has been updated and of course will be updated again for this coming class. As we discussed and as I saw in the majority of your weekly tasks, the lab is the only thing you need to complete now. No need to complete the project. Saw that, loved it, appreciate that. I think a few of you took a little bit more time with the lab than previous weeks, so I'm glad to see that. And then last but not least on this slide, we of course want to emphasize collaboration in our pods. This is one of the most important pieces, I would say maybe the most important piece of the TF role. We really have to make sure that the groups are collaborating. So I appreciate, I've been doing some of my observations and I've seen how a lot of you will say like, hey, Ava, you're kind of quiet. What do you think about this? I really appreciate that and hope you keep it up, especially during capstones. And then, as I mentioned on the previous slide about observations, weeks 5 through 7 are observations. We'll finish those up this week. As I've shared, it's not a performance review or anything that you should stress about, just a little check-in. And you'll see me in your pods. You probably already have. And these 4 areas will be considered. So entry tickets, breakout rooms, weekly tasks, and communication. Okay, now we are going to, oh my goodness, sorry, I used an old copy of slides instead of making them from scratch this week, and clearly there's a reason I make them from scratch. We are going to do a quick retrospective in true agile fashion, not really, and look back at some student feedback. So these are week 6 stats. I just wanted to paste a few that I felt like were most relevant. One that I think is a little concerning here is the response rate of the survey. Of course, we'll have to take all of the data we look at with a grain of salt, since we only have less than half of the students' responses, but it's still valuable. I also wanted to put the ratings per unit, which was pretty high last week. It was the highest we've seen so far, so that's exciting. And then that ratio of enjoyable to okay and unenjoyable, which was also the lowest okay we've had thus far, which is very exciting. So now we are going to take a little bit of time to do an activity. We did this in week 3 as well. We're going to go try and see if we can find some feedback that's helpful for us as TFs. So during the icebreaker, we thought about how we could improve, and now we're going to look at what students say and see if we can extrapolate any more ideas about how to improve. So I'm going to set a timer, and we're going to review the session feedback responses tab in the course tracker. Let me know, of course, if you can't find it. And I want you guys to take 12 minutes to review the session feedback all the way from week 1 to week 6, and come back ready to share like an insight or a glow or a grow or whatever feels meaningful for you, especially if it's related to how you can improve as a TF. Does this activity sound clear? Any questions? Okay. I am going to set a timer. You are all welcome to turn off your camera, because I know that it's kind of awkward to be doing work while other people watch you. And then we will come back in 12 minutes and we'll share out. Okay. I'm going to stop my screen share so you guys can see that timer in my little square. All right, let's make our way back. Timer noise. Okay. So I would love to hear from each of you one glow or grow or insight that you found looking through the feedbacks from week 1 through 7. Ruhi, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. So, one glow that I found that was that students like the AI like checkpoint with examples on how to use like the LLM well, and like so it can be helpful. They also like the longer break too. But grows that I found were there was not enough like explanation on the capstone, and group assignments weren't like, some people got paired up with people like that weren't talking, or like they had trouble adjusting to like those new people. So, or like it wasn't even communicated very well, that like some people were surprised that they lost like a teammate or something. Yeah.
Totally. Those are really, really good, Ruhi. Thank you so much for those insights.
Yep.
Andy, do you want to go next? And then Sakani will hear from you.
Yeah, so basically what Ruhi said, I basically have the same thing. Like they like the AI checkpoints. What else? They also like the lab. However, like the lab is a bit more there's some students find it more challenging because the lecture wasn't um isn't the students weren't prepared enough from the lectures. So yeah, basically this is why. What else? I have one alarming phone number saying that they felt like they're not gonna complete the capstone assignment.
Which number's that?
12.
12. Yeah, they've been on my radar, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And what is that for week 6?
Wait, what was that? Say that again?
Was that from the week 6 feedback?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I saw that one. That's something that I
it's a bit
will
alarming.
follow up with. Thank you so much for flagging that, Andy.
All right.
Connie, do you want to share? And then we can wrap up. I'm going to check the chat, sorry. Oh, wow, beautiful contribution in the chat. Okay, so I'll read these aloud. Some of the glows, positives, are that everyone enjoyed working together in groups, that the teamwork and the discussions went well, and then that the pace felt good for most people. Yeah, we saw that. I saw that in the qualitative and quantitative feedback, and that it had a fun, easygoing vibe. I definitely like that about the hot. I feel like it's very chill vibe. Okay, and then some negatives, and I'm going to make these resized a little bit. Some students wanted clear connections between the lecture and the lab or project work. Yep, that was one that I kind of felt as I reviewed the curriculum was like not super connected as it was in other weeks, which I think provides some value for students. And that's one thing that we have to keep in mind whenever we read negative feedback is like sometimes the code path curriculum masterminds did something on purpose. I don't know about that one specifically, but I think it's really positive, really good to flag it. And then last but not least, a few people felt rushed and wished for a bit more time to brainstorm with their groups. Totally. Yes, these are all super valuable, guys. As we know, WEB103 is getting dusted off. It's a little bit different than other courses, and I definitely picked up on some of these when I was in the pods. Like there was one pod that I went to, I forget which one it was, that definitely had like a negative vibe going because one of the girls was like, well, I already know what I'm doing with my capstone, but I'm doing it with my other group. And I was like, so that's awkward because that is no longer your group. And she was like, well, it's my idea and they want to do it. So definitely, I don't think students knew that the pods were going to change. And that's really, really valuable to flag for our messaging for next term. And then that number 12, I've worked with and seen some of that too. And I know Fahad has been in and out of there. And the lab was definitely a little harder this week. I know Fahad was really cognizant of that as well. And yeah, not liking the new group assignments. It's so hard because me personally, I don't like group projects. They just stress me out. And I feel like everybody always, there's like a weird vibe, but they're really, really the best way to prepare for the workplace. So this is all super valuable. I really, really appreciate all of you putting that together. That is actually all I have for us. I know we've gone through our TF expectations quite a bit, so I won't repeat those this week. But if any of you have any questions for me, please go ahead. And if not, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
So since you're gonna I don't know which slide is it, but it says like they're gonna reconsider for emission. Like, do you know what do you mean about data will be collected for for emission?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's on this slide here about
It
TF
is considered a
observation.
rehire process, yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really good question. And I really want to make that clear. So the data, what we're talking about there is the data that we have from you on an individual level as a TF. So things being turned in on time, coming to the session a little bit early, turning on your camera, your breakout room performance and how you work with groups. And then we also have all of the data, which isn't what I meant by this phrase, but I think it's valuable to consider. We have all of the course-wide and code path-wide data. So how many TFs are we going to need next semester? Sometimes we have a target to hit 10,000 students and we only hit 6,000. So the number of TFs that we thought we were going to hire is a lot lower. And sometimes it's the reverse, right? And then we also want to consider data like how many TFs do we have that are new? How many do we have that are returning, etc. I personally am not involved in any part of the rehire process. That's like an HR thing.
Does
But
it also include like this transcript history, like when it comes to like performing
no,
like
it's not. That would be so cool if we could like disseminate all of that information that I'm sure is gathered in like the Zoom recordings and everything. But no, it's not that high level. It's data mainly on these 4 areas that you see at the bottom of the slide on an individual level. So in the session, those would be the entry tickets, as they call them, which is kind of antiquated because we used to have things called entry tickets and now they're not. But that's like being 5 minutes early, making sure your camera's on, making sure that when you join the session, it says TF Ava Nelson. And then breakout rooms, that's in session. That's like, are you going and helping people that are quiet speak up a little bit more? Are you providing a lot of insight? Are you just sitting back and like half kind of scrolling on your phone? That's the breakout rooms, right? And then out of session, we consider those last 2 things on the slide here. So the weekly tasks, those are your projects that, well, labs now that I've been looking at each week. And sorry, I don't always fill in the far right column, but I promise I do look at them. And I know I've talked to a few of you about your projects. And then communication. So do you respond on Slack? Do you watch the recordings of our TF syncs or attend them? Do you reach out if you're going to be absent, or if you have a question, or if you have a concerning pod? So those are the main 4 areas of data for an individual TF that are gathered during the observations.
Yeah, and also, remember when we did the thing like monitoring the students'
Cameras.
activity, like if their webcams are on, like is that considered part of the
Yeah.
like, and also like the way they answer the Q&A from the live session, is it also?
Yeah, those are both really good points that are considered. So like, I think in any role, right? If you're in a job and you volunteer to do some extra help, that's of course going to reflect positively on you and your performance. And if you answer all the Q&As, that's of course going to reflect positively. That
And
doesn't
also
mean that
the study hall too, right? Like when
the
you
study halls as well. Yeah, all of those extra opportunities, of course, show
Yeah.
your dedication and the value that you provide. Not to say that if you don't do those things, you're not providing value, because we all have very different lives outside of CodePath, right? Different availabilities.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's no shoe in like, oh, if you do all those things, you're definitely going to get rehired, because sometimes it's just admissions and they don't get that many people for classes and they end up going with some, new TFs that they want to give a shot. Like all of you guys have had the opportunity to be a TF. So it just depends, but you guys are all doing well. And I can tell you for sure, I have not, recommended like absolutely don't hire any of the TFs that are in WEB103. And I know that the team selected some pretty stellar WEB103 TFs, since it is a course that we're dusting off. So you really shouldn't stress too much about these different data points. Does that make sense, Andy?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, any other questions? Okay, awesome. I will release you all. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you Wednesday. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
Have a good one.